Captain Hyun walked to the center of the chamber, and his movements were casual, yet somehow completely different from before. Commander Daeho recognized the shift. Hyun was changing from diplomat to something else entirely. Around the chamber, the smarter delegates began to sense the change, though they could not identify what had altered in the human demeanor. "We have shown you how humans train other predators," Hyun began, and his voice took on a different quality. Softer, more measured, but somehow more dangerous. "But we have not discussed our most successful training program." Dr. Yuna pulled up a new holographic display showing human anatomy. When humans began training predators, we discovered something interesting. The same techniques that worked on other species could be applied to ourselves. We could enhance our natural capabilities through systematic training and conditioning. The Valkyrian delegates scoffed, though, with less confidence than before. Human physical capabilities are limited by biology. Training cannot overcome evolutionary disadvantages. Lieutenant Minho smiled and stepped forward. Without warning, he moved. The motion was so fluid and precise that several delegates did not register what had happened until Minho was standing behind the Valkyrian chair, having crossed 20 meters of space in complete silence. The chamber erupted in startled sounds as delegates realized the young human had moved through their midst without triggering a single one of their predatory awareness instincts. He had been invisible to creatures whose survival depended on detecting threats. "Human military training begins with stealth," Minho said, quietly, having somehow returned to his original position without anyone noticing the movement. "We learn to suppress our presence so completely that even trained predators lose track of us." Commander Daeho stood, and suddenly the chamber felt smaller. His presence seemed to fill the space in a way that made several delegates unconsciously step backward. "We train our reflexes until they exceed those of natural predators. Our response times become so fast that we can intercept attacks that our eyes can barely track without apparent effort." Daeho caught something from the air A, small projectile that none of the delegates had seen coming. Analysis later would reveal it had been thrown by Minho from across the chamber at a speed that should have made interception impossible. Yuna continued her presentation. But now, the scientific data took on an ominous significance. Humans in peak physical condition can run for hours without stopping, tracking prey across continents. Our endurance hunting capabilities exceed those of any other known species. We literally chase our prey until they collapse from exhaustion. The images showed human persistence, hunters from Earth history following large game animals for days across harsh terrain until the prey simply gave up and accepted death rather than continue running. It was a level of relentless determination that no other predator could match. "But physical training is only the beginning," Captain Hyun said, and his smile was now predatory in a way that made the chamber temperature seem to drop. "We also train our minds." The next demonstration was subtle but terrifying. As Dr. Yuna spoke about human cognitive enhancement, Captain Hyun began to analyze each delegate aloud. He identified their species, biological weaknesses, predicted their likely combat responses, and outlined exactly how a trained human would neutralize each one. His analysis was clinical precise and delivered in the same conversational tone he had used for diplomatic discussions. The Thrakari delegate tried to interrupt with a show of aggression. Rising to his full height and displaying his fangs, Captain Hyun did not even look at him directly, but somehow his response was perfectly calibrated to make the larger creature sit down immediately. "We train ourselves to read body language across species barriers," Hyun explained casually, "to identify stress patterns, anticipate aggressive responses, and neutralize threats before they fully develop. We study every potential enemy until we understand them better than they understand themselves." Lieutenant Minho added the final piece. "And then we train ourselves to feel nothing about what we do." Human soldiers can eliminate targets while maintaining perfect emotional control. We can make life or death decisions in microseconds and then continue with our mission without hesitation. The chamber was now completely silent, except for the sound of various species' breathing patterns, which the humans were undoubtedly analyzing for signs of stress and fear. The delegates were beginning to understand that they were not looking at clever prey animals who had lucked into technology. They were facing predators who had systematically trained themselves to exceed the capabilities of any naturally evolved hunter. The demonstration continued with increasingly unsettling revelations. Dr. Yuna showed videos of human soldiers moving through hostile territory with a level of coordination and lethality that made the alien predators look clumsy. By comparison, every movement was calculated, every decision made. With perfect tactical awareness, human combat training does not just teach fighting techniques, Commander Deho explained. It teaches us to think like weapons. Every human soldier learns to assess battlefield conditions, identify optimal strategies, and execute complex plans while under extreme stress. Captain Hyun demonstrated by providing a real-time tactical analysis of the chamber itself. He identified every possible entry and exit point, cataloged potential weapons, and improvised tools, analyzed the combat capabilities of each delegate, and outlined 17 different scenarios for controlling or evacuating the space. All delivered in the same calm, diplomatic tone. We train pattern recognition until we can predict behavior before it happens. Hyun said, "We study psychology until we can manipulate emotional responses across species barriers. We practice until violence becomes as natural as breathing." The aliens were now visibly disturbed as they realized they were not just being briefed on human capabilities. They were being systematically analyzed by predators whose training had turned assessment and planning into unconscious reflexes. But Dr. Yuna's final slide showed a simple statement that made the chamber atmosphere shift. From tense to genuinely frightening, individual human capabilities represent only the basic level of our training programs. Commander Daiho's expression suggested that everything they had demonstrated so far was what humans considered entry-level competency. The real question was not whether humans qualified as apex predators. It was whether the other species in the chamber had any idea what they were truly dealing with. Lieutenant Minho checked his equipment one more time and nodded to Captain Hyun. They were ready for the final demonstration, the one that would show these aliens what humans could accomplish when they stopped thinking like individuals and started thinking like the pack hunters they truly were. The silence in the chamber stretched as Dr. Yuna prepared her next presentation. Captain Hyun could see the moment when some of the smarter delegates began to understand something big was coming. The Thrakari delegate had stopped howling his protests and was now leaning forward with real interest. His predatory instincts recognized that something important was about to be revealed. Dogs represent our most successful partnership. Yuna began, but they are far from our only trained predators. Holographic display changed to show a massive bird of prey sitting on a human arm. Falconry has been practiced by humans for over 4,000 years. The image showed a golden eagle with wings that made its human handler look tiny, yet the huge bird remained perfectly still, waiting for commands. Lieutenant Minho provided the explanation. This eagle can spot prey from over 3 kilometers away. It can dive at speeds over 300 kilometers per hour. It can strike with enough force to kill animals much larger than itself, but it will return to a human arm on command, even leaving a successful hunt if we call it. Commander Deho watched the alien delegates' faces carefully. The concept was clearly challenging their understanding of how predators related to each other. In their experience, you were either predator or prey. There was no middle ground where apex predators willingly served others. The crystal alien flickered rapidly, showing it was thinking hard. This suggests a level of mental control that should be impossible. How do you override millions of years of predatory programming? Dr. Yuna smiled. We do not override it. we redirect it. The hunting instinct remains exactly the same, but we become part of the pack. Structure. The predator hunts for us with us because we have convinced it that we are the alpha of its pack. The next image showed something that made several delegates step back in shock. A human swimmer was moving alongside a massive great white shark. The shark, easily capable of killing the human in seconds, instead glided peacefully beside its companion, occasionally accepting guidance from gentle hand signals, marine predator training. Minho explained, "This particular shark has been working with human researchers for 7 years. It can find specific objects on the ocean floor, identify different types of fish populations, and even help in underwater rescue operations. The Velcarian delegate's clause came out without him controlling it. Impossible. Great white sharks are solitary apex predators. They do not form packs or accept hierarchies. They do with us," Captain Hyun said quietly, "because we offer them something they cannot get alone. Purpose beyond just survival." The presentation continued with increasingly impressive examples. Dolphins trained to find underwater mines and disable them with surgical precision ravens that could solve complex puzzles and communicate solutions to human handlers across vast distances. Even more shocking videos of humans working alongside large cats, tigers, and lions that kept their lethal abilities but channeled them into protection and partnership. Roll's Commander Daeho stood as the final image appeared. It was a composite showing. Dozens of different predatory species, all working alongside humans in various jobs. Every predator you see here volunteered for this partnership. We do not force cooperation through fear or pain. They choose to work with us because they recognize something in humans that apparently this council does not. The Thrakari delegate was now completely focused, his pack-hunting instincts trying to understand how humans had achieved something his own species considered impossible. How do you gain the loyalty of creatures that should see you as prey? Dr. Yuna activated a new display showing brain scans and behavioral data, because we are not trying to dominate them through strength. We are offering them intellectual stimulation, purpose, and partnership. Most predators are highly intelligent but spend their lives focused solely on survival. We give them challenges beyond hunting problems to solve, and most importantly, we treat them as equals in the partnership. The revelation was staggering. These humans had not just domesticated a few species. They had developed a systematic approach to forming partnerships with virtually any predatory creature they encountered. They had turned the entire concept of the food chain into a collaborative network. But the next revelation was even more impressive. The holographic display showed images of predators that should have been impossible to train solitary hunters like leopards and jaguars working in perfect coordination with human partners. Crocodiles, ancient reptilian predators responding to complex commands. Bears, massive omnivores that could crush a human, serving as gentle companions to children. We have partnerships with predators from every continent, every ecosystem, every evolutionary. Branch Lieutenant Minho explained, land, sea, air, underground. We have learned to communicate with and train predators that other species consider completely untamable. The Zephyrian ambassador form flickered with what might have been fear. You are describing systematic predator recruitment across an entire planet. How many species have you trained, Doctor? Yuna smiled. Almost all of them. The ones we have not trained yet are simply species we have not met yet. Every predatory species on Earth either works with us or stays out of our way. By choice. Commander Daeho added the context that made this revelation truly terrifying. And this is just on our home world. Every planet humans colonize follows the same pattern. We do not just move to new worlds. We integrate with their predator populations within the first generation. The chamber was now filled with a different kind of silence. The delegates were beginning to understand that they were not looking at a species that had lucked into some useful partnerships. These humans had developed a comprehensive system for turning entire planetary ecosystems into extensions of their hunting capabilities. The Velcarian delegate finally found his voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. How do you do it? How do you convince natural killers to serve you, Captain? Hyun walked closer to the center of the chamber, and his movement made several delegates unconsciously step back. We do not convince them to serve us. We invite them to join something greater than themselves. We show them that cooperation can achieve things that individual hunting never could. The images changed again, showing predator and human teams accomplishing incredible feats. A human and dolphin pair locating and rescuing survivors from a shipwreck in conditions that would have been impossible for either species alone, a human and eagle team tracking criminals across hundreds of kilometers of wilderness using combined human intelligence and raptor senses, a human, and wolf pack, coordinating to manage and protect vast forest ecosystems. But Captain Hyun's expression suggested they still had not revealed their biggest surprise. His eyes held the patience of someone who had saved the best demonstration for last. Several delegates were beginning to understand that everything they had seen so far was just the foundation for something even more impressive. Lieutenant Minho checked his chronometer and nodded to his captain. The time had come to show the Galactic Council what happened when humans applied their predator training techniques to themselves. The chamber fell into expectant silence as the delegates realized they were about to witness the ultimate expression of human predatory capability, the revelation. That would explain how a species with no natural weapons had become the most feared hunters in their local galaxy. The old being who ran the Galactic Council meetings appeared more solid in the room. The ancient creature had no real body anymore, but when important things happened, it made itself visible. The confused whispers from all the alien delegates made. Pay attention. Captain Hyun, please explain your question better, it said. The difference between trained and wild predators does not seem important for deciding who evolved as hunters. Commander Daeho tried not to laugh. These aliens had made the same mistake that animals on Earth made for millions of years. They thought they understood what humans were capable of, but they had no idea what training could really do. With respect, Sir Captain Hyun said politely, I think the difference is very important. You see, every species here has decided who is a predator based on what individuals can do. But humans were never individual predators. Dr. Yuna made her computer show pictures of different Earth animals in the air above their table. Think about wolves, like our Thrakari friends here. She said, a wolf by itself is a good hunter, but a pack of trained wolves, they can kill animals 10 times bigger than they are. The metal wolf alien snorted and showed his teeth. Pack hunting is natural, behavior, not training. We also hunt in groups when we need to. Said Dr. Yuna as she showed a new picture. But what about this? The new image showed a human child, maybe 10 years old, sitting calmly next to a huge German shepherd dog. The child looked tiny next to the massive animal, but the dog was perfectly still, just waiting for the child to tell it what to do. This, she said, is what we call a trained predator. Confused sounds filled the room. The picture seemed harmless enough. A small human with what looked like a pet dog. Several aliens looked at each other, not sure what this was supposed to prove. Lieutenant Minho stood up. His voice was confident, like someone who grew up around dangerous partnerships. That dog weighs 60 kilograms and can run faster than most of you in this room. Its bite is stronger than many natural predators. But more important, it will follow complex commands from that child without ever questioning them. The crystal alien flickered with what might have been amusement. A pet does not make humans into predators. Many species keep tame animals. Captain Hyun nodded like he agreed. True. But how many species have trained their pets to track specific targets across entire continents, to smell explosives or drugs, from tiny traces to attack exactly when commanded, or to hold back, even when every instinct screams at them to kill? The chamber got quieter as the delegates started to understand the implications. This human was not talking about simple pets. This sounded like something much more advanced and dangerous. Dr. Yuna continued showing pictures of police dogs in action, search and rescue dogs, military working dogs doing impossible things. These animals keep all their predator abilities, but they have learned to use them with precision that no wild predator could ever match. They hunt when we command them. They stop when we order it. They can tell the difference between threats and innocent people in ways their wild cousins never could. Commander. Daiho leaned back in his chair, remembering his own time working with military dogs during the border wars. He had watched a Belgian Malinois take down 3 armed fighters without killing any of them. The dog followed orders that needed split-second decisions and perfect control. No wild predator could have managed that kind of restraint combined with deadly effectiveness. The Valkyrian delegate shifted uncomfortably, his claws scratched against the podium. These are still just animals following simple commands. This does not make human predator status higher. Simple commands. Minho laughed as he pulled up a video on his device. Watch this. The hologram showed a real military operation happening. A soldier gave a series of hand signals to his dog partner. The dog immediately began a complex search pattern, found multiple hidden threats, disabled an explosive device by cutting specific wires in the right order, and then took down an enemy soldier while avoiding 3 civilians who were in the same room. The chamber fell completely silent as the implications began to sink in. These humans had not just tamed predators, they had created something entirely new. They had taken wild hunters and turned them into precision weapons that could adapt, and make moral choices in real time while still being deadly effective. But Captain Hyun was not finished. His smile grew wider as he prepared to show the full scope of what humans could do with trained predators. Of course, he said, dogs are just the beginning. Dr. Yuna prepared her next presentation, and the silence stretched as delegates realized they were about to learn something that would change how they thought about predators forever. The next image showed something that made several delegates step backward in shock, a massive bird of prey with wings spread wide sitting calmly on a human arm. The eagle was huge enough to kill the human easily, but it just waited for commands. Falconry has been practiced by humans for over 4,000 years, Dr. Yuna said. Lieutenant Minho provided the details. This golden eagle can see prey from over 3 kilometers away. It can dive at speeds over 300 kilometers per hour. It can strike with enough force to kill animals much larger than itself, but it will return to a human arm on command, even giving up a successful hunt, if we call it back, Commander. Daiho watched the alien delegates' expressions carefully. This concept was clearly challenging everything. They thought they knew about predator relationships. In their experience, you were either hunter or prey. There was no middle ground where apex predators willingly served others. The crystal alien flickered rapidly, showing deep thinking. This suggests a level of mind control that should be impossible. How do you override millions of years of hunting programming? Dr. Yuna smiled. We do not override it, we redirect it. The hunting instinct stays the same, but we become part of the pack structure. The predator hunts for us and with us, because we have convinced it that we are the leader of its pack. The next image shocked several delegates so much they recoiled. A human swimmer was moving alongside a massive great white shark. The shark could easily kill the human in seconds, but instead it glided peacefully beside its companion, sometimes accepting guidance from gentle hand signals, marine predator training. Minho explained, this particular shark has been working with human researchers for 7 years. It can find specific objects on the ocean floor, identify different types of fish populations, and even help in underwater rescue operations. The Valkyrian delegate's clause came out without him meaning to. Impossible great white sharks are solitary. Apex predators. They do not form packs or accept anyone as their leader. They do with us, Captain Hyun said quietly, because we offer them something they cannot get alone. Purpose beyond just survival. The presentation continued with more and more impressive examples. Dolphins trained to find underwater mines and disable them with surgical precision. Ravens that could solve complex puzzles and tell human handlers the solutions across vast distances. Even more shocking videos of humans working alongside. Big cats, tigers and lions that kept their deadly abilities, but used them for protection and partnership. Commander Daeho stood as the final image appeared. It was a composite showing dozens of different predatory species, all working alongside humans, in various jobs. Every predator you see here volunteered for this partnership. We do not force them to obey through fear or pain. They choose to work with us because they recognize something in humans that apparently this council does not see. The Thrakari delegate was now completely focused. His pack-hunting instincts were trying to understand how humans had done something his own species thought was impossible. How he asked, how do you gain the loyalty of creatures that should see you as... Prey Dr. Yuna activated a new display showing brain scans and behavior data because we are not trying to control them through strength. We offer them mental challenges, purpose, and real partnership. Most predators are very intelligent but spend their lives focused only on survival. We give them problems beyond hunting things to solve, and most important, we treat them as equals in the partnership. The revelation was staggering. These humans had not just tamed a few species, they had developed a systematic way to form partnerships with almost any predatory creature they met. They had turned the entire concept of the food chain into a network of cooperation, but Captain Hyun's expression suggested they still had not revealed their biggest surprise. His eyes held the patience of someone who had saved the best for last, and several delegates were beginning to understand that everything they had seen so far was just preparation for the real demonstration of human predatory ability. Lieutenant. Minho checked his watch and nodded to his captain. It was time to show the Galactic Council what a truly trained predator looked like when humans decided to train themselves. The giant crystal room was full of angry voices. The Galactic Council was having another big fight, and this time, it was about Earth. The humans wanted to join the Apex Predator Coalition, but nobody could agree if they were strong enough. Captain Hyun sat at the human table and watched the aliens argue. He was a calm man with dark hair and quiet eyes. He did not say much, but he listened to everything. His partner, Dr. Yuna, was looking at her computer screen. She had lots of information about different animals, and she was waiting for the right time to use it. The room was huge, with seats for hundreds of aliens from all over the galaxy. Some looked like giant lizards. Some looked like metal wolves. Some were made of crystal that sparkled. In the light, all of them were supposed to be the best hunters in the galaxy. That was why they were in the Apex Predator Coalition. A big lizard alien stood up and hit his table with his clawed hand. His name was something humans could not say so. They just called him Ambassador Scales. He was from the Valkyrian Empire, and he was very angry. I say no to these weak humans. He shouted, look at them. They have no claws. They have no sharp teeth. They have no thick skin to protect them. How can they call themselves apex predators when any of us could kill them with our bare hands? Many aliens nodded and made agreeing sounds. The metal wolf alien howled his support. His fur looked like silver and his teeth were like knives. My people hunted across frozen worlds, while humans hid in caves from saber-toothed cats. He said, we are the real predators here. More aliens started talking at the same time. The room became very noisy. Captain Hyun did not move. He just kept watching and listening. Commander Daeho was sitting next to him, and he also stayed quiet. Daeho was an older man with scars on his hands from many battles. He knew when to fight and when to wait. Lieutenant Minho was the youngest human there. He was from a colony world where the animals were much more dangerous than Earth animals. He wanted to say something, but Captain Hyun gave him a look that meant wait. The crystal alien spoke next. His voice sounded like wind chimes when he talked. "We must use science to decide this," he said. "The hierarchy is clear. Some species hunt and some species get hunted. Humans spent most of their history running away from real predators like lions and bears." Dr. Yuna finally stood up. She was a small woman with glasses, but when she spoke, everyone listened, because she was very smart. "Honored delegates," she said, "I think there might be some confusion here. When we talk about predator hierarchies, what exactly do we mean?" The room got quiet. Her question seemed simple, but something about the way she asked it made the aliens stop and think. "Are we talking about natural evolution?" she continued. "Or are we talking about fighting ability right now? Or maybe something else?" The way she said it made it sound like there was a trick in the question. "Somewhere, Captain." Hyun smiled. Just a little bit. Dr. Yuna had just done something very clever. She had made the aliens think they understood the question when really they did not understand it at all. Ambassador Scales spoke again, but now he sounded less sure. "Obviously, we are talking about natural evolution," he said. "The hierarchy is simple. Hunters versus the hunted. Your species ran away from predators for millions of years." "That is very interesting," Dr. Yuna said as she wrote something down. "So we are talking about natural abilities only. No tools, no weapons, no technology, just pure biology, predator against prey." All the aliens nodded. This seemed right to them. After all, they had evolved to be perfect killing machines, while humans had only gotten strong because they invented tools and learned to work together. The crystal alien made a sound like laughing. "Exactly. When we take away your technology, humans are just clever animals that run away. You are weak, slow, with bad senses and no natural weapons." Lieutenant Minho moved in his seat. He grew up on a world where the local animals could eat a human in one bite. He knew something about predators that these aliens did not understand yet. But Captain Hyun was not ready to show their cards. Commander Daeho stood up slowly. When he moved, everyone could tell he was dangerous, even though he looked like a normal human. "That is a very interesting way to look at it." "Ambassador," he said, "but I have to ask Dr. Yuna a question again." The room was quiet again. "Waiting when we talk about predator hierarchies," Daeho said, looking around the room. "Are we counting trained predators or only wild ones?" The question hung in the air like smoke. The aliens looked confused. The difference seemed important, but they could not figure out why. Captain Hyun sat back in his chair and waited. The humans had just asked the question that would change everything. Ambassador Scales' claws scratched on his table. "What does it matter?" he said. "A predator is a predator. Training does not change what you are born as, doctor." Yuna touched her computer screen, and pictures appeared in the air above the table, showing different Earth animals. "This is where it gets interesting," she said, "because humans have never been individual predators." The pictures showed wolves hunting in packs and dolphins working together to catch fish. But there was something different about these pictures, something the aliens had not seen before. "You see," she continued, "every species here has talked about individual strength, but humans learned long ago that the best predators are not always the strongest ones. They are the smartest ones." Lieutenant Minho finally spoke up. "And smart predators do something that strong predators cannot do. They make other predators work with them." The aliens leaned forward now. This was not what they expected to hear. "How do you make a predator work with you?" the metal wolf alien asked. "Predators fight each other. They do not cooperate." Captain Hyun stood up and walked to the middle of the room. Now he did not look like a diplomat anymore. He looked like something else, something that made the aliens nervous even though they could not say why. "That is where you are wrong," he said. "Humans do not make predators work with us. We ask them to join our pack, and then we train them to be better than they ever could be." Alone, Dr. Yuna changed the pictures. The new image showed something that made several aliens step back. It was a human child sitting next to a huge dog. The dog was bigger than the child, but it was sitting perfectly still, waiting for orders. "This," the humans said, "is what we call a trained predator." The aliens stared at the picture. It looked innocent enough, but something about it made them feel uncomfortable, like they were missing something important. "The dog weighs more than most of you," Lieutenant Minho said. "It can run faster than you can. It can bite hard enough to break bones, but that 10-year-old child can tell it what to do, and it will obey without question." Ambassador Scales made a dismissive sound. "A pet does not make humans into predators. Many species have pets." Captain Hyun smiled, and the smile was not friendly. But how many species, he asked, have taught their pets to hunt specific targets, across entire continents, to find bombs by smell, to attack on command or to stop attacking when told, even when every instinct tells them to keep fighting? The room was getting quieter as the aliens began to understand that this was not about pets. This was about something much more serious. Dr. Yuna showed more pictures: dogs working with police, dogs finding lost people, dogs in the military, doing things that seemed impossible. The animals still looked like animals, but they were doing things that required intelligence planning and perfect control. "These animals keep all their hunting skills," she explained, "but they have learned to use them with precision that wild predators cannot match. They hunt when we tell them to. They stop when we tell them to. They can tell the difference between enemies and innocent people better than their wild cousins ever could." Commander Daeho remembered working with military dogs during the war. He had seen them do things that seemed like magic: taking down armed enemies without killing them, following complex orders in the middle of battles, making decisions that required both killer instinct and moral judgment. The Valkyrian delegate was getting nervous. "These are just animals following simple orders. This does not make humans into apex predators. Simple orders." Minho laughed and showed a video on his device. The video showed a soldier and his dog partner in a real battle. The soldier made some hand signals. The dog immediately started searching, found several hidden enemies, disabled a bomb by cutting the right wires, and then attacked one enemy while avoiding 3 innocent people who were in the same room. The chamber became completely silent. The aliens were starting to realize that humans had not just tamed some animals, they had created something new. They had taken wild predators and turned them into thinking weapons that could make split-second decisions about life and death. But Captain Hyun was still smiling like he had more surprises. Of course, he said, "Dogs are just where we started." The silence in the chamber had become heavy and uncomfortable as the weight of what they had learned settled on the assembled delegates. Captain Hyun allowed the quiet to stretch understanding that predators needed time to process when they encountered something beyond their experience. His training had taught him that the most dangerous moment in any confrontation was when the opponent realized they had been outmatched from the very beginning. Dr. Yuna activated a new display showing human military formations throughout history. Everything we have demonstrated represents individual human capability, but humans are pack hunters who have spent thousands of years perfecting group coordination. The images showed ancient human armies moving in perfect synchronization. Each soldier trained not just as an individual warrior, but as part of a larger hunting organism. Modern military units displayed the same principles, refined through generations of experience and enhanced by technology that made coordination even more deadly. Commander Daeho stepped forward, and immediately Minho and Hyun shifted positions without any visible communication. The movement was subtle but unmistakable. 3 humans had just formed a tactical formation that covered all angles of approach and eliminated blind spots. Human pack behavior differs from other predatory species, Daeho explained while maintaining perfect awareness of everyone in the chamber. We do not just coordinate during the hunt. We share knowledge. Across generations, adapt tactics in real time and support pack members who might otherwise be lost. The Thrakari delegate, whose species prided itself on pack hunting, leaned forward with genuine curiosity overriding his earlier hostility. Our packs operate on instinct and established hierarchies. How do humans coordinate complex operations without confusion or conflict? Lieutenant Minho smiled, touching a small device on his collar. Instantly, every human in the chamber received and processed a complex tactical assessment. Their positions shifted almost invisibly, creating interlocking fields of observation that covered every delegate while appearing completely casual. We developed systems for sharing information instantly across the pack, Minho explained. Every human can access the knowledge and experience of every other human in real time. When we hunt with the accumulated wisdom of our entire species. The demonstration that followed was subtle but comprehensive. Dr. Yuna began discussing human technological development, while the other humans moved through the chamber, ostensibly examining the architecture and displays. But their movement pattern was clearly coordinated systematically, cataloging every exit, every defensive position, every potential threat or advantage. The aliens watched in growing unease as they realized they were being methodically assessed by a pack of predators whose coordination exceeded anything in their experience. The humans were not just gathering information. They were preparing for scenarios that might never occur, with contingency plans that accounted for variables the other species had not even considered. Human military doctrine emphasizes redundancy and adaptation. Captain Hyun said, somehow knowing exactly what his packmates had discovered without any apparent communication. If one member of the hunting party is compromised, others immediately adapt to compensate. If our initial strategy fails, we implement alternatives that were prepared before the hunt began. The Valkyrian delegate was now visibly disturbed. You are describing a level of coordination that should be impossible without a hive mind or genetic programming. Training, Dr. Yuna said simply. We train together until individual human responses become predictable to our packmates. We study together until our tactical thinking aligns. We practice until coordination becomes instinctive. Commander Daeho provided the most unsettling revelation. Every human military unit trains to operate even if cut off from external support. We become self-sustaining hunting packs that can adapt to any environment, overcome any obstacle, and eliminate any threat while maintaining mission focus. The chamber. Environmental systems detected rising stress levels among the non-human delegates as they began to grasp the implications. These humans were not just effective individual predators, they were components of a hunting system that could scale from small teams to planetary operations while maintaining perfect coordination. The Zephyrian ambassador crystalline form was now flickering rapidly as it processed the tactical implications. This level of coordination suggests that human military doctrine treats entire star systems as hunting grounds. Captain Hyun's smile was answer enough, but he provided clarification anyway. Human strategic thinking operates on multiple scales, simultaneously. We plan individual missions, but also prepare for conflicts that might last generations. We train for scenarios involving single opponents and for wars against entire galactic civilizations. The chamber fell into the deepest silence yet, as delegates realized they were not just evaluating whether humans qualified for the Apex Predator Coalition. They were face to face with a species whose approach to predation operated on scales they had never imagined, with coordination capabilities that turned every human encounter into a potential pack-hunting scenario. The demonstration reached its climax when the humans began to show how their coordination worked in practice. Without any visible signals, they began to move in perfect synchronization. Each human took a position that gave them optimal tactical advantage. While appearing to be engaged in casual conversation, Dr. Yuna continued her presentation about human pack behavior while simultaneously conducting what was clearly a real-time tactical exercise. The other humans responded to threats and opportunities that existed only in their shared planning scenarios, demonstrating a level of coordination that made the alien delegates feel like they were watching a single multi-bodied organism. But Lieutenant Minho's expression suggested that even this revelation was incomplete. The humans had one more demonstration that would fundamentally alter how the galaxy viewed Earth children and their place in the cosmic food chain. Something that would explain how a species that had evolved as persistence hunters had become the apex predators of an entire galactic region. Captain Hyun checked the chamber chronometer and nodded to his team. It was time for the final revelation. The Galactic Council's chamber had never hosted a demonstration quite like what unfolded in the final moments of the human presentation. Captain Hyun stood at the center of the room, no longer the diplomatic representative who had entered hours earlier. The careful facade had been stripped away to reveal something that made even the most confident predatory species reconsider their assumptions about the hierarchy of hunters. Dr. Yuna activated her final holographic display, showing a simple image that sent ripples of recognition through the chamber. Earth itself, blue and green and beautiful, suspended in the darkness of space. We've discussed individual human capabilities and pack coordination, but we haven't addressed the most significant aspect of human predation. Commander Daeho moved to join his packmates, and the three humans formed a triangle that somehow managed to dominate the entire chamber, despite their relatively small physical presence. The delegates found themselves unconsciously positioning to keep all three in view, their predatory instincts recognizing a threat pattern they couldn't identify. Every species here achieved apex predator status on their home world, Captain Hyun began, his voice carrying absolute confidence. You dominated your local ecosystems and eventually reached the stars. Impressive accomplishments, all of them. The Thrakari delegate sensed where this was heading and tried to interject, but found himself silenced by a look that carried more authority than any threat display could achieve. Humans achieved something different, Lieutenant Minho continued. We didn't just dominate our ecosystem, we trained our entire planet to serve our purposes. The holographic display shifted to show Earth's surface in detail, vast agricultural networks that fed billions, weather modification systems that controlled climate patterns, and ecosystem management programs that directed the behavior of every species on the planet. Dr. Yuna provided the scientific context that made the revelation complete. Humans are the only known species to achieve total ecosystem dominance while maintaining biodiversity. We didn't drive other predators to extinction. We integrated them into our planetary management system. The images showed the full scope of human planetary predation. Forests managed for optimal resource production, oceans regulated for sustainable harvesting, and weather systems adjusted to maximize agricultural output. But more than that, it showed every animal species on Earth serving human purposes, from pollination networks to pest control systems. We turned our entire world into a training ground, Commander Daeho explained. Every environment, every species, every natural system serves our needs while appearing to maintain its natural function. The chamber erupted in chaos as delegates finally understood what they were confronting. The humans hadn't just trained individual predators. They had trained an entire planet. Earth itself was their weapon, their tool, their perfectly orchestrated hunting system. Captain Hyun raised his hand, and somehow the chamber fell silent again. This is why your original question about predator hierarchies was so interesting to us. You were thinking in terms of individual or pack hunting capabilities, but humans operate as planetary predators. The final demonstration was simple but devastating. Dr. Yuna showed the delegates Earth's current population statistics, billions of humans supported by perfectly coordinated planetary systems with production capacity that exceeded the requirements of most galactic civilizations. "When humans hunt," Lieutenant Minho said quietly, "we bring the resources of an entire trained planet to bear on the problem. Our logistics, our manufacturing, our food production, everything is designed to support extended operations anywhere in the galaxy." The implications crashed over the assembled delegates like a wave. These humans weren't just asking to join the Apex Predator Coalition. They were revealing that they operated on a scale that made the Coalition's entire power structure obsolete. Commander Deho delivered the final truth. Every human world follows the same model. We don't colonize planets, we train them. Each system becomes another component in our hunting network, another resource base for operations you can't imagine. The Valkyrian delegate finally found his voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. "How many worlds?" Captain Hyun's smile was gentle, almost apologetic. "How many do we need?" The question hung in the air as the chamber's occupants realized. They weren't debating whether to admit humans to their predator coalition. They were being offered the choice of joining humanity's hunting pack or being classified as prey in a game whose rules they were only beginning to understand. Dr. Yuna closed her presentation with one final image: star charts showing human expansion, routes extending far beyond known space, with hundreds of worlds already integrated into their planetary training network. The humans hadn't come to ask for acceptance as apex predators. They had come to announce that the galaxy's food chain had a new apex, and to offer existing predators a chance to join the pack before the real hunting began. The vote to admit humans to the coalition was unanimous, though several delegates suspected they had just voted to dissolve their organization in favor of something far more comprehensive. Captain Hyun accepted their decision with the same diplomatic grace he had shown throughout the presentation, but his packmates' expressions suggested that joining the coalition had never really been the point. The humans had come to introduce themselves to their new hunting grounds, and the galaxy would never be the same.